Tree and Press's new, well, not so new, Dove and Dragon Radio. I'm here with the special author today, Vivien. I'm going to butcher your last. There we go.
Vivien
I
Schapera.
am horrible at names, so as long as we get the first name right, we're good. And you have a couple books out. We're going to start with Everyday Magic.
Oh, okay, good.
So what got you to write this first book?
Well, Everyday Magic is a memoir. I wrote it about my life from the time I was aware, which was about 3-4 years old, until the time I established a school for training healers called Four Winds Academy for the Healing Arts and Sciences. And that I grew up in South Africa. I moved here when I was in my mid-30s. And I established Four Winds Academy here in Ohio, where we live now.
Oh, and, what part of Ohio are you in?
I'm in Cincinnati.
Really? That's just a hop and a skip and a jump away for my current location. So that's great.
Yeah. It's been a wonderful place to live, Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. People kind of make fun of it, I think, a little bit. And you see in the movies, they'll refer to it as a joke or something like that. But actually, it's a wonderful place to live and has a very, very magical energy to it. Apparently, it's built on a bed of crystals. I don't know if it's true or not. I've heard people say that. But I can attest that there's a very unique energy here in Cincinnati. And in fact, I was reflecting on it. And then I asked a client of mine, why do so many healers move to Cincinnati? And she said, well, that's because it's on the developing chakra of the earth. And I said, what? What are you talking about? I had no idea what she was talking about. And the next week when she came for her following appointment, she brought me a book and showed me this map of a dove and where the developing chakras of the earth are. And there is a developing chakra, apparently, that is manifest around Toronto, Cincinnati, and Louisville, Kentucky. And then 1 week later, believe it or not, out came the sort of best places to live in the US, according to whichever magazine. Mm-hmm. And they listed Cincinnati, Toronto, and Louisville. It was weird. It was weird. We came in the top 4 out of the top 10. And there on that developing chakra of the earth. So that was an eye-opener. But it wasn't only that magazine. It's actually Edgar Cayce was asked, where's the most spiritual place on earth? And he replied, Cincinnati, Ohio, believe it or not. And I read that in the newspaper. And I also read in the newspaper in the days when newspapers were viable paper
sources of news.
In the news. That too. Not so funny though. Anyway, Russian psychics in I think it was about 1917 were asked to determine the power spot on earth, the spiritual power spot on earth, and they too determined it to be Cincinnati, Ohio, USA. And I thought those were 3 interesting things that came to my attention all in the same 2 weeks. And actually, I've included the information in my book, Everyday Magic, towards the end of it, as I get from growing up in South Africa during the apartheid years with my brother, who was, he was gay, and although here now I should say LGBTQ, and growing up in South Africa during that time, then moving to this country and just experiencing the extraordinary and strange magic of life. And that's why I titled the book Everyday Magic. And to me, the paradox contains truth. Mm-hmm. And many, many moments in our lives are so paradoxical. And that's where the everyday magic lies, inside that paradox where things switch from yin to yang and change. And that is where you can find the truth. In that moment of change, in the middle of that paradox, that's where we get these moments of sanity and truth and miracles and magic.
Right. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're into the crystals and all this magic, but at the same time, there's truth in this. There is, if you think about your life from birth to wherever you're at in life, when you have that moment of change, it could be a divorce, it could be a death, it could be a new birth, it could be whatever that moment of change is, that's when you find your truths.
That's right. Yes. And inside your disappointment is your greatest hope. But you must also remember that inside your greatest hope can lie your disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And working constructively and consciously and with awareness with that, you can deliver the best part of life to yourself. Whereas if you work negatively with that, you will go on a downer. And that's the choice we must make. Are we going to let this moment take us up, or are we going to let this moment take us down? And it can be either way.
Yeah, and it's so hard to do. And I can contest to this. I try to be the most upbeat, positive thinker ever. But I'll get in these little moments of doubt, and go, this is not happening. I can't do this anymore. And it brings everything down, and then it stops. Whatever you're doing for that positive momentum stops.
Exactly. And I have these little sayings that I've developed for myself. And one of them is that the thing and its opposite live in the same space. Of course, that is a clear derivation from my everyday magic concept. And I just remind myself of that. And then there's a saying that we have, it's always darkest before the dawn. And that is true. And so I have learned that when I hit that moment of, I can't do this anymore, this is just too much, it's too horrible, it's too hard. Mm-hmm. Then I know the magic is coming. And I've taught myself to observe that. I'm a great empiricist. I'm always observing what happens, how does it happen, and what happens next. And on the basis of that, I can really say it is always darkest before the dawn. And when we get to that lowest moment and that point of despair, that is actually when we can sit back and wait and watch, because we'll see, if we don't disrupt the energy flow, we'll see the bounce back upwards. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we do have to do something. It's not like we can be passive, but it's a moment of great awareness. And if we can bring our consciousness and our awareness into these moments, our lives become completely different from how they would otherwise be.
They do, because we have to make the choice every day. Are we going to do something positive, or are we going to stay in this negative? The negative Nelly, my friends call it, is just being down. Oh, woe is me. I can't do anything. Are you going to stay there or sit back and go, wait, what can I do to change not only my mood, but the outcome of my life?
Exactly. And that's what we want to do. We want to learn how to change. Otherwise, we're going to just repeat this, not only the same pattern in this lifetime, but possibly, and most probably, in my view, more lifetimes. We'll just keep coming back until we learn.
Yeah, we do. It's perfectly thing. We have so many motivational speakers rising up right now to teach people to think positive, to look for the everyday magic, to look for the everyday blessings, to look for how to get yourself built up. That it's becoming a real movement within the last 30 years or so, with your Brad Laser, those who do the crystals, those who do metaphiliology, and probably butchering that, how this pronounced that, but all the spiritual learning, all the motivational learning within the last 30 years is, wait, we have to start thinking from a different perspective.
This is true, and we need to understand things in a different way. And I think it's with that insight and understanding that we can make the best conscious progress.
Now, after Everyday Magic, was Guided Lessons then your next book?
Yes, actually, that was in the wings. And I'll explain a bit about that. But the next book that I wrote was with my friend Drew Logan, and it was How to Lose Weight and Gain Money.
Okay.
And that one we wrote in 2004. We published that one, and that was a program for putting your life in order. And it's actually one of the best pieces of writing I've done. But what I didn't realize was that if you write a book, you've got to make sure it fits into an existing category, and there were no other books that combined weight and money. So,
okay, let's break this down a little bit, okay? I'm a very mathy person, okay? So I love my math. Food costs X amount of money every day. So if you're spending half of that, you're going to lose weight, and you're still going to keep half that money for your pocketbook.
That is one way to look at it, and it's the sort of simplest, most superficial way to look at it, but it has a dynamic to it that does actually count. But actually what we do is, it's as if weight and money are the two icebergs of our lives, of our incarnation. Both of them, when we died, we have it doesn't go with us. Our weight does no longer matter. How much money we have makes no difference. Doesn't go with us when we die. And these are the two dynamics in our lives that teach us about life on planet Earth, what it is to be incarnated. Because once we have a physical body, we need to take care of what we put inside it. That's our food, and that's going to determine our weight and our nutrition and so on. And we are going to need money if we're incarnated here on Earth. And so we're forced into dealing with these two very, very strong issues. And we either do them well or we don't. And so what the book is about is understanding what the link is between those two icebergs. And we call that the bridge. And we look at the similarities and we see what people do. So some people have exactly the same dynamic going on with weight and money. I'll give you an example. I had a client who needed bypass surgery because she was overeating and had become too overweight. So she had bypass surgery to deal with making sure that the food did not get into her system and didn't get absorbed and didn't make her fatter and fatter. But then with her money, she couldn't handle her finances either. So she literally had to have a bypass system for her money too. She had to get an accountant to run her finances because she was absolutely hopeless with managing her money. And so you'll see that's a parallel track. Now, other people can be in compensation when it comes to weight and money. So they'll deprive themselves financially and they'll be strict and self-disciplined. And they'll eat whatever they want to make up for the fact that they won't let themselves spend their own money. And then you can get it. So you can be in compensation or you can be parallel with the two. But it's very interesting to see how different people coordinate the two dynamics of their weight and their money. It's actually a fascinating topic, very deep, very much to do with our incarnation.
I mean, when you get into, okay, you're trying to help people understand the weight. And we have shows out there now that are actually touching on what you wrote about. And just for one of the shows would be 600 Pound Life. If you look at, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm sorry, I watched the show. They can't manage their own weight because they lie to themselves about what they're eating. They lie to themselves what they're spending on what they're eating. So they can't manage their finances and they can't manage their weight.
Correct.
So they put this into a little show, an hour, half-hour show, but it's spotlighting everything you just wrote about.
Yes. Yeah. And we did a lot of radio shows. We did a radio tour with the book. It did really well. But it didn't get off it didn't get into the popular stream of things. And I may bring it back again and redo the cover and do an ebook, and because it is very current and always will be. As long as we're alive, we're going to have weight and money issues. I was sad that the book didn't do better because it's one of my best pieces of writing. And I'm all about empowering people. I'm a teacher, you know, I just love to teach. I love to empower people. I love to see people develop their potential. That's my personal mission in life, is to help people develop their potential. I think that human potential is our most amazing resource, and we can see what we do with it. Some people go ahead and truly develop their potential, but so many of us don't. And I think it's sad.
Well, it's not that we don't develop our potential. We let those around us tell us what our potential is. So we deflect to those around us. Because they've been here longer, they are the gurus, they know what we should be doing. And it's not the case. We, as a person, as an individual, has to reach out to get to our potential.
I agree with you. We have to take responsibility for ourselves, and we have to learn how to do that. And we have to learn how to do that, not in a self-punishing way or a self-critical way, but in a self-parenting way. And so many of us do have to reparent ourselves because we didn't grow up under the best, most nurturing circumstances for developing our potentials. So we have to do that for ourselves.
One of the best stories I've heard, and this is a real life thing, it was one of my best friends. He grew up on the streets, homeless, living behind trash cans, and he's now a multi-millionaire CEO of several companies. It's not the potential his parents, I'm sorry, I don't know, it's alarm system. His parents didn't teach him what his potential is. His people around him didn't teach him what his potential is. His drive for himself taught him his potential.
He accessed it in himself. And that's what we each and every one of us need to do. We've got to do it for ourselves. And what we do for ourselves, that is so very, very important. Yes, we need teachers. Yes, we need mentors. And I learned this actually when I was training in Taekwondo. And I realized that you got to go to class and you got to learn what the teacher teaches you, but you also got to go home and practice.
You do. You can have the best teachers, the best life coaches, the best spiritual guides out there. But if you're not practicing what they're teaching you, you're not going to get any benefit out of it.
You got to do your homework.
You do. I was just a part of a council panel a few 2 months ago, and they touched on the same thing. There was a guy who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on life coaching, on reading materials to motivate himself to do stuff, and he never did anything until I think it was did this cycle for 15 years. And finally, he realized he has to practice what he's learning.
That's right. And you also, not only that, a teacher can teach you, but you still got to find your own best way. That too. And as a teacher, that's what I want for my students. I don't want them to do it my way. My way is the way I figured out. Well, no, you got to go forward. You got to find your own way, and you got to help develop things, and you got to help make a contribution. You can't just depend on others to cut the path, and then you just follow the path. Plus, where's the fun in that? I love the creativity.
I don't follow the beaten path. I don't. I go, okay, here's the easy path. I'm going to go over here through the dark, scary woods. Find a few walls to run into and go around it or climb it or whatever, because that's how you learn. That's how you stay on the path that you meant to, is by putting the challenges. If everything's handed to you, A, you're going to lose interest. B, you're going to get bored. And C, you're going to get to the end of whatever you're doing and go, well, this wasn't fun at all.
Yeah, or you're going to say, what's the point? And those are the people that are somewhat depressed and going, what's the meaning of life? It's like, well, it doesn't matter what the meaning of life is. What matters right now is the purpose of life.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose of life is to learn. And what you're really learning, what you're really, really learning, and this is in Everyday Magic and every book that I write, is you're learning how to be you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're learning. You came here to be you. Now, how do you get to be the best you possible? And
Right.
the best you possible isn't the same as the best me possible. So you've got to learn for yourself, and you've got to find your own path. And how great to have teachers who can shine light on the panorama, but you're still going to have to do it yourself. But how wonderful, how
Mm-hmm.
wonderful.
Yeah, you can't compare your life to, okay, if you're 40 years old, you're working at Walmart and you're depressed, okay, because you see all these successful CEOs that started college at 18. So what do? You can stay in this depressed thing, or you can go back to school. It's called night school.
That's right.
Change what is negative about your life. You have to do it for you. Back when I was 18, I'll tell you right now, I did not want to go to college. I had opportunities to go to college, but a part of me was not ready. I didn't know what I wanted in life at 18. How many 18-year-olds out there actually know what they want out of life?
Exactly. And I think it's weird because children have to choose even younger than 18 which track they want to go on in life, because they have to start doing those subjects during their high school career.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can you choose so young? And what is this mill where you go from one kind of school to another kind of school to college? When do you get out into the world so you can learn more about the world and therefore about yourself, and therefore find out what you really want to do? And I think that the most powerful careers are the ones where people have come back when they're older and chosen again, either a second career, or then decided, now I'm going to go to college, or now I'm going to do the training, and they've discovered what they really want.
Right. It was 18. I was wanting to be a restaurant manager, owning my own restaurant, on that career path. Well, I'm a further thing away from a restaurateur that you can get. But I started my life when I decided I wanted to start my life, quit living for these around me.
Right. And that's so exactly it. So exactly it.
Mm-hmm. So we touched the base a little bit on guided lessons. So what led you to this book specifically?
Guided lessons, that actually a student on our Alexander training course. So the Alexander technique, it's a hands-on technique. We put our hands on people and we guide them through a new postural or body psychophysical dynamic of themselves. And what it's for is for changing patterns of movement, patterns of behavior, patterns of thinking. It's a wonderful, wonderful technique, the Alexander technique. And many people attribute, say about the Alexander technique, they say, oh, it saved my life. And I would be one of those people. The Alexander technique saved my life. And it can save your life literally in the sense that because you think quicker, your reflexes are better, you can actually do something to literally save your life. But I think most of us mean it a bit more metaphorically, where we're saying, what my life would have been if I hadn't found the Alexander technique is completely different from what it is now. And I am in that category for sure. I found it when I was 20 years old. And I found it because I had very, very, very bad posture. And then my teacher, because I was training in psychology, she asked me if I'd like to train as an Alexander teacher. And I went, oh my goodness, I'd never have the cheek, the audacity to try and teach someone else something about this. But actually, the Alexander technique is about thinking primarily, because what you think is what you get. And to explain that a little bit better, I can tell you, if you think to yourself, I want to go up those stairs, you don't have to think anything more than that. You need the intention. I want to walk up the stairs. And then your brain knows how to send the myriad of messages through to all the different cells of your body to get you walking up the stairs. All you needed to do was make the decision. So then what you think is what you get. Now, where the clarity comes in about what you think is what you get is if you imagine that you're expecting another step, what happens to your body as you do that extra step that you imagined was there, and then you crash into the ground, and you see that your entire nervous system, your entire muscular system, your entire being was prepared for what you thought. Now, that's very, very important to extrapolate from that and to get all the implications and extrapolations of what we think is what we get. And then you look at the Alexander technique and you see this is a method for training you to actually reduce all the interference, all the noise that prevents your brain from getting that message through to the rest of you. You know, there's perfect wiring from here, unless it's been damaged. And it does get damaged, and it still can be really excellent wiring even then. But otherwise, it's perfectly wired to get from here to all the rest of us. And what all we need to do is reduce the interference, reduce the interference, reduce the interference. That is the Alexander technique. How do you get to that purity of what you think is what you get? And it's a wonderful technique. Firstly, it feels fabulous. People say, oh, this is better than a massage. Secondly, it's a learning, but feels like a therapy, but it's actually a learning. It's an education. It's a neuromuscular re-education. And it's just the most fabulous technique. So my husband and I, we had an Alexander training course. We still do, but right now, of course, it's dormant.
Yeah, everything's dormant because of COVID.
Yeah, and the impact on us. And this was a student on our Alexander training course for her dissertation. She decided to do this book, Guided Lessons. And then the way it was done was very much the way a student would do a project. And so a few years later, my husband and I said, come, let's fix this book. Let's make it a really good Alexander technique book. And we updated it, and we put in new photographs, and we really redid the book. And at that time, because I'd basically helped with the writing of the content and guided them with how to make the book, I got my name on the cover as well. And it was a group project that 3 of us did together. And that was Guided Lessons for Students of the Alexander Technique.
Well, some of our best lessons, our best textbooks have more than one author.
I think so. And I love that you said that, ML. I love that you said that. I remember saying to an architect client of mine back in South Africa, and I said, you don't want to ever learn anything from only one teacher. And he looked at me and I said, well, look, you're an architect. Did you learn from only one teacher? And he said, I guess not. I said, no, you don't want to learn someone else's method. You want to learn the principles. You want to learn creativity. You want to learn ideas, especially in something where inventiveness is required. You do want that exposure to multiple minds.
Yes.
Because no human being is anything more than a human being.
No. And the thing is, sometimes you don't start learning stuff until you're 30 years old. You can't,
Right.
You have to learn, first you have to learn when you're ready to learn. You can't just, my daughter is autistic, and I use her in a lot of my podcasts. She will not learn something until she's ready to learn it. I can teach her the fundamentals. I can teach her anything I want, but she's not going to obtain the information and learn it until she's ready. So we put the message into a book or into a medium that they can go back to at any time. And then the person, the individual, my daughter in this case, can go back later on when they're ready to learn it.
That's right. And with those compendiums, those books, you can go back again and again because there's so many layers of learning. And we go back when we're ready and we perceive, we have selective perception and we have to have selective perception. And so at different times, we're ready to perceive different aspects. And I think that readiness inside us is a very important dynamic. I like that you're talking about that. I appreciate it.
I mean, everything is the multiple layers of learning.
Correct.
I'm a fantasy author. And if you read my book the first time, you're going to get a completely different message than if you read it 5 or 6 times.
Exactly.
Because you're reading something completely different. Well, then I'm building layers. You build layers by building volumes or a series. Yes. So you reread the series and you're completely learning something different again. We put this into fantasy books. We put this into nonfiction books. We put this into life. Perception is everything. Perception is your reality. When you change your perception, then you change your reality.
Exactly. And then we go from there, and because we build our future on what we perceive to be our reality. So that's where the self-fulfilling prophecies come in.
Yes. I mean, if you are living in a HUD-owned house, you're living at a dead-end job, and you're not happy, well, what's your perception that would make you happy? What is it that's holding you back? 9 out of 10 times is yourself. What's your spending habits? Who are you hanging around with? And what can you do to change it?
Good questions. And it's that moment when we can stop and ask ourselves those questions. That's our everyday magic moment. The moment when we realize, I'm the one with the power. Actually, nobody's doing this to me. I'm keeping myself like this.
Oh my God. Hold on a second. I'm going to throw my phone out here in a second. The only thing on is actually my alarm system that says, oh, look, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's time to get up now. Now I live in the East Coast. I work on the Pacific Standard Time. So this is literally my 11 o'clock wake up to call. Literally. If anyone can understand my sleep schedule, please tell me, because I don't know my sleep schedule half the time. There we go. But this is the life I choose to live because this is what makes me happy. I'm preparing myself for the next stage of my life when I'm actually on Pacific Standard Time.
Oh, are you moving?
I am moving.
Oh.
So rather than giving myself a week or a month to adjust to being on a different time zone, I just live on the time zone now. It makes perfect sense to me because everyone I work with is on that time zone.
Oh. Yeah.
So it works. This is how I perceive my life. I live on a time zone where I'm moving. Instead of, oh, I have to adjust when I get out there. No. There's no adjusting. I just do it now.
Do it now. Yeah. Makes sense to me.
I mean, it does make sense to people if you think about it, because I'm preparing for what I want, not planning for what I want and never getting there. I'm preparing for what I want.
And that brings me to another point, is we always get confused, which is the cart and which is the horse.
Mm-hmm.
And so most people will say, first I'll move to PST, and when I'm there, that's when I'll convert. And you're saying, no, if I convert, then I'll be able to move there. Mm-hmm. And so you've changed in your mind which is the cart and which is the horse. Mm-hmm. And by making the adjustment, you are working with that concept I was talking about. What you think is what you get.
Yes. And the thing is, I had to change that perception because back before the newer outbreak of COVID, we were ready to open. Everything came from my beautiful company that I work for. So it was, I have to be ready to be in my office then. Well, then we get the next COVID outbreak and everything gets stalled again. But at the same time, I'm preparing myself for that day.
And what magic are you finding in these delays? And, you know, I think that almost everybody has can identify something that's happened because of COVID.
Yes. See, the delays are here for a reason. Sometimes I don't find the reason yet, and it's frustrating and puts me into a mood. And then I'm like, wait, I found better pricing for my company for the machines. We have found better employees. We have found my personal life is bonding me with my partner a lot better because we're having this delay. We're not rushing a relationship because we are forced to slow down.
So you found the everyday magic in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Every day is a different challenge, but at the same time, every challenge is leading you to the life that you perceive that you want to have.
Yes, and in hidden ways that you can't even appreciate until you look back, and then you say, hindsight has 20/20 vision.
Yes. I mean,
I think it's
2020,
always
I mean, seriously, we're in 2020. It's forcing us to step back and find our everyday magic.
It is, yeah.
So where can our listeners and our viewers find you?
You can find me very, very easily. You can find me at crystalhealingtechniques.com, and you can find me at schapera.com. And the thing about me is I'm the one and only person with my name in the world, and therefore on Google. And so if you can spell my name correctly, you can find me very, very easily, all the different things that I do. Vivien Schapera, Schapera. And I'm very easy to find. I'm the one and only, which is rather amazing.
Yes, when you're the one and only with the name, it's so easy to find you.
That's it.
You're no longer looking for the needle in a haystack. You're trying to find that one piece of silver in a mound of rubies.
There you go. And my best website is crystalhealingtechniques.com. And that is the one where my new book, The Complete Guide to Crystal Surgery, can be found, and you can view it. It's an amazing, amazing textbook about energy healing and a new way to do crystal healing. It's a unique book. It's a reference book. I just won an award for it in the education reference category, education reference category of the IAN Book of the Year Awards. And I'm very, very proud of my team that we put this book together. It was a very difficult book to do. We had to draw the energy, and we had to turn 5D into 2D. It was enormously challenging, enormously confronting task. And there's a website, there's a YouTube channel, there's a huge amount of information that goes with it. And I can really say this is very serious work that I've put 25 years of research into. So please, I'd love for people to come visit and even just view the PDF of the book just to see what came about. This is brand new. This is groundbreaking territory. There is no other book about metaphysical studies that equals this one. It is absolutely unique. It is extraordinary. And there is a huge amount of information in there that is not available anywhere else, including energy anatomy and other energy dynamics, explanations of the etheric web, beautiful, beautiful illustrations that my artist Mary Beth did. Just fantastic. We worked on that together. We got help from the spirit dimension. My son, who passed, came and helped with the drawings. He's a fabulous artist, and he showed us how to do the drawings and diagrams. So you get this extraordinary manifestation from across dimensions, a huge team of people that we had to put together to do this. And it's an amazing, amazing book, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. I could only find one book competition to enter into, and we did reach the finals and did get an award in that one book competition, because once again I wrote a book for a tiny audience, and a book that doesn't fit into any category previously, because it's a brand new, absolutely amazing.
When you're writing groundbreaking stuff, that's when you know you're onto something.
Yes,
because now you have to train millions of people to come to that one thing.
that's right. That's right.
But it was so great to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And for all of our listeners, happy reading.